Okay, so good afternoon, class. So before we start, before we proceed to our proper discussion, again, welcome to Media and Information Literacy subject. Okay, so again, I am Miss Mary Joy Artazo and I am your OLC for this subject. So we will discuss Module 5 and 6 of this subject. Okay, so Module 5 will discuss the legal, ethical, and social issues in media and information. So this module will discuss or uh, will put you into practice your understanding of the intellectual property, copyright, and fair use guidelines. Also, this module or this discussion will explain about copyright, fair use, or about human rights. Okay, so also we will demonstrate the proper conduct and proper behavior online. So we will discuss netiquette and virtual self. Okay, so before we start, again, what do we mean by media literacy? Anybody in the chat box? If you can still remember our past lesson, anybody in the chat box? Again, what do we mean by media literacy? You can still remember our discussion last time or last week. Okay, so from Vince, media literacy is the ability to use media. Okay, another answer, okay, is from Gemma, to be literate in media. Okay, what else? Aside from the ability to use media, aside from being literate in using media. Okay, so from Eliza, media literacy to gain information. Okay, so from Veronica, it allows people to access, critically evaluate, and create or manipulate media. Okay, so from Angel, media literacy encompasses the practices that allow people to access, critically evaluate, and create or manipulate media. So from Vince, to understand well media, and from Brent, to promote awareness of media. Okay, so again, when we say media literacy, it is being able to assess or being able to evaluate the media that we are using or the type of media that we are using. Okay, so part of a media literacy is what we call the media law. Okay, so what do we mean by media law and the freedom of expression? So our freedom of expression is included in our Constitution. So the 1987 Constitution had taken note of the importance of freedom of expressions. Hence, or in the Article 3, Section 4 of our Constitution says that no law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech, of expression, or of the press, or the right of people peaceably to assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. Okay, so while we are given the right to freely express our opinion, of course, we must keep in mind to exercise this right responsibly. So it is for this reason that certain limitation has been established ensuring that people shall not abuse the freedom of expression. Okay, so what do we mean by freedom of expression? Anybody? Again, what do we mean by freedom of expression? So we always say that we always read that on the internet or we always see that in the news. So what do we mean by freedom of expression? So from Lorraine, free to express our insights. Yes, correct. What else? So from Eliza, it's the freedom of expression is our ability to express what we can truly feel. Okay, so we can express freely our opinion. Okay, so from April, mga nagpapahayag. Okay, from Brent, it is the ability of an individual. Mhm. Of what? Okay, so from Angel Mia, it is right to express one's ideas and opinions freely through speech, writing, and other forms of communication. Wow. Okay. So from Kurt Ivan, it refers to the ability of an individual to express beliefs, thoughts, ideas, and emotions. Okay. Okay, so when we say freedom of expression, it is what our freedom to express ourselves. Yes, through reading, through writing, um, through speaking. So as long as we can express ourselves or our ideas, our opinions, okay, that is a freedom of expression. Okay, so but still, although we have the freedom of expression, although we still have to keep up in our mind that we have to keep this or we have to exercise this responsibly. Okay, that's why we have in the Philippines the media law. Actually, this is not also only in the Philippines, but international. So media law, when we say media law, it is a legal field that relates to legal regulation of the telecommunication industry, information technology, broadcasting, advertising, the entertainment industry, censorship, and the internet and online services, among others. So when we say media law, it covers media regardless of its form. So media law covers television, media law covers broadcasting stations like radio stations, also newspaper. So it in any form of expression that is covered by media law. Okay, so its concerns range from intellectual property, free speech, and censorship to defamation and right to privacy. So we will discuss them one by one. Okay, so what do we mean by intellectual property? Okay, anybody in the chat box? From the word itself, intellectual property, what do we mean by that? Okay, from GMR, copyright and related rights. What else? Okay, so from Veronica, that includes intangible creations. Okay, so a property that includes intangible creations of the human intellect. Okay, so when we say intellectual property, yes, from the word intellectual. Okay, so according to our Republic Act 8293, or also known as Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines, the term intellectual property rights consists of the following. So when we say intellectual property, it composes or it consists of the following. The first is the copyright and related rights. And aside from that, the trademarks, the service marks. So when we say trademarks, it talks about the creation or invention of something. Okay, geographic indications, industrial designs, patents, layout designs or integrated circuits, and protection of undisclosed information. Okay, so when we say intellectual property, this is not just tangible or when we say tangible in Tagalog or in Filipino na hawakan or something physical, right? But when we say intellectual property, that is intangible. Yes. So like ideas, okay? Or inventions. Yes, correct. So that is intellectual property. So under intellectual property, we have what we call copyright. Okay, so if you see this one, if you see this logo, that means copyright. Okay, so copyright is a form of intellectual property which protects the humans, the right, sorry, of authors and creators of artistic works. So it refers to the main act in which, in respect of literary and artistic creation, may be made only by author or with his authorization. So what do we mean by copyright? Okay, so again, this logo means copyright. Okay, so but sometimes we use this to give credits, right? Correct, to other people. Okay, so that is the logo for copyright. Okay, so it is a form of an intellectual property, meaning a copyright is the right of the author or to protect the author of his works or creations. Okay, yes, correct, Judy Lynn. It is the legal right of the owner, meaning in the copyright there is someone who owns that ideas or anything that is intangible. Okay, so next, so a copyright protects ownership rights to intellectual property and covers a lot of areas. Okay, so it can be in the form of original works and trademarks for different brands. Okay, so I know some of you already see that this logo, so that means copyright. Okay, so this is also applicable to patents for media-related technologies or processes. And in the Philippines, our copyright is covered by or include but not limited to the following. Okay, so first is literary works such as novels, poems, and plays. Okay, so if you have written some literary works, some stories, so it can be copyrighted to your own name. Okay, next, newspaper articles like films and television programs, also letters, artistic works, okay, like paintings, sculpture, drawings, and photographs. So if you are the one who made that, that is your own work. Okay. So next is architecture, like computer programs, advertisements, maps, and technical drawings. Okay. So in the copyright, we have two types of rights in the copyright. Okay. So the first is the economic rights and the moral rights. So, what is the difference between economic rights and moral rights? Okay, so this is under copyright still. Okay, so economic rights give the author or the copyright owner the right to derive financial reward from his works by others. Okay, so what do we mean by economic rights? Anybody? From the definition itself. It gives the author or the owner the right to derive financial reward from his works by others. So what kind of copyright is economic rights? Anybody in the chat box? Okay. Yes, Sophia, correct. It includes money. Okay. Meaning, when we say economic rights, so the author or the owner of the certain works have the right to ask a financial reward whoever or who will use his or her works. Okay, so that is under a copyright law, under economic rights. Meaning, again, the author, the owner of a certain work can ask a financial reward when somebody or someone will use his or her work. Okay, now how about moral rights? Okay, so moral rights refer to the author's right to claim authorship of the work, or other term for moral rights is right of paternity, and restrain the use of his name with respect to any work, not of his own creation or a distorted version of his work. What do we mean by moral rights? Okay, so economic rights, again, it includes a financial reward, yes. So how about moral rights? It gave a credit to the owner. What else? Acknowledgement to the author. So again, when from the definition itself, when we say moral rights, it is the right to claim authorship of the work. What do you mean by that? So restrain the use of his name with respect to any work. Okay, so if in economic rights, again, we're talking about economic rights first. When we say economic rights, the author can ask or can derive a financial reward. But in moral rights, meaning the owner or the author of a certain work is restrained. When we say restrained, um, in other term for restrained or in Tagalog or in Filipino, when we say restrained, aalisin siya doon sa, aalisin yung use ng name niya. Okay? So meaning, he or she or the author is not connected to the distorted version. Okay? When we say distorted version, it means what? What do you mean by distorted in Tagalog or in Filipino? Don't worry, you can answer in Filipino class. Hmm? New? What else? Baluktot? Yes? Yes, that's correct. Baluktot. Or yung mga nabago na version. Yes, different version. Yes, correct. One good example of moral rights is, if you know parody. You know what's parody? What is parody? Okay? Or yes, katawa or nakakatawa, right? So when we say moral rights, meaning class, anybody can do a parody of a certain work, right? So for example, a song, or if you want to make a parody of a song. When we say parody, nakakatawang version ng song, di ba? Usually, anong ginagawa sa nakakatawa? Nakakatawa or parody, binabago yung lyrics, right? So when we say moral rights, meaning kahit ginaya mo yung song, pero binago mo yung lyrics, that is under moral rights, meaning hindi na sakop ni totoong owner yung ginawang distorted version o yung parody version. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, kung may nakakatawa man dun sa ginawa or there is something uh, funny or something wrong with the parodied version, hindi na sakop yun ni totoong owner. So kung kasuhan man yung gumawa ng parody version, hindi makakasuhan si totoong author. Gets? Or, uh, understand? Okay, yes. Okay. So, do you see the difference between economic rights and moral rights? Again, when we say economic rights, the author or the owner can ask or can derive a financial reward from his works. Okay? While moral rights, it is what? The right of the author to restrain or to restrain the use of his name. Okay? To restrain the use of his name in any work, especially a distorted version of his work. Okay? So that is the two types of copyright. Okay, so according to National Library of the Philippines, the general term of protection of works under copyright covers the lifetime of the author and 50 years after his death. Meaning, habang nabubuhay yung author, that is under his or her copyright. And pag namatay naman, 50 years after his death, okay? So after 50 years, ma'am, ano pong mangyayari? Copyright is not applicable anymore, okay? So under copyright, we have plagiarism, okay? So what do we mean by plagiarism? So plagiarism is passing off someone else's creative work as your own without permission, okay? So yes, in Tagalog or in Filipino, that is panggagaya. Okay? Or inaangken, yes, or pagnanakaw ng gawa ng iba. Okay, copying without what? Without crediting other people or without crediting the true author or owner. Okay, so when we say plagiarism, it is getting without credit or without permission and presenting it as your own. Okay, so when we say plagiarism, this is very usual when we are writing a research, for example, right? So, anong ginagawa natin sa research? For example, okay? So, ano yan? Copy, paste, papalitan yung font, papalitan yung font size, print, ma'am, ito na po yung gawa ko. Okay, another example in media. Ano, can you give some examples in media of plagiarism? Okay, so there are a lot ginagaya natin or ginagaya 'di ba yung kanta, ginagaya yung artworks. Yes, correct, Julian. Artwork, sabihin niya, ay gawa ko 'to pero kinuha niya pala, ginaya niya pala. Ba? Okay? Yes, articles from Anna. So from Ronald, copying of contents, yes. So that is what we call plagiarism in media. Okay, so some people are copying stories, uh, getting ideas. So that is plagiarism. Okay, so according to Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, so when we say plagiarism, it means to steal and pass off even though it is ideas or works of another people as your own work. Okay? So aside from that, when we say plagiarism, it is to use without crediting the source or without giving proper credits to the source. Okay? To commit literary theft. Yes, when we say literary theft, it means copying the literature of other like stories, like poems, okay? And to present as new and original an idea or product derived from an existing source. Okay? So, ma'am, idea lang naman kinuha ko dyan. Okay? Still, when you get the idea or the original idea or even product and you did not give credit to the uh, to the owner, it is still plagiarism. Okay? Now, how can we avoid plagiarism? Anybody? Okay. So again, the question is, how can you avoid plagiarism? Yes, from Nobel, give credits. Yes. Create a trademark. Wow. By crediting. Okay. Citation from Micah. Yes, from Joshua, pay the author or the owner. Correct. Okay, but what if we cannot pay since, for example, we are students? Okay. Yes, ask permission from Julian. Okay, give credits or properly. Okay. Properly credit the source. Now, how about when you get the information in the internet? Anybody? What if you paraphrase from Micah, include the link from Paula, put reference. Now, what if you don't know the real author or the real owner of that work? How can you avoid plagiarism? Okay? Don't claim it as your work. Yes, correct, Lorraine. Include the site, yes, or website. And okay, by the way, class, the CTTO or the credits to the owner is not um it's not the way of giving proper credits, okay? Because we don't know of the real um owner. So how can we avoid plagiarism if you don't know the real owner, okay? That's why we have what we called fair use. Okay, so what do we mean by fair use? Okay, so fair use is copying of copyrighted material done for a limited and transformative purpose, such as to comment upon, criticize, or parody a copyrighted work. Okay, so this can be done without the copyright's owner's permission. Okay, so still it is used as a defense against a claim of copyright infringement. When we say copyright infringement, that is the law that talks um, about copyright. Okay, so how can we use fair use? Anybody in the chat box? Credit to the owner. Check your work for possible plagiarism according to Brent. Okay. Okay, so um, check your work for possible plagiarism. What else? Okay, to give credits. Okay, so again, when we say fair use class, it is what you can use a copyrighted material, but for a transformative purpose. Or you can give comment, you can criticize, or you can do a parody. Okay, but still that is under a copyrighted material. So in fair use, we can do or we can use the work without the copyright, the owner's permission. Okay, although we don't have the permission, um, we will not, uh, when we say copyright infringement, kasi ito yung kaso na pwedeng gawin laban sa atin kapag pag ginamit natin ang isang bagay na copyrighted. Okay, that is under the copyright infringement law. Okay, so what do you mean by this? So yan, yung fair use. Okay, so dalawa yan. First is the commentary and criticism. Okay, so when we say commentary and criticism, fair use allows you to reproduce some parts of a copyright work, okay, in order to comment or critique it. What do we mean by critiquing? Okay, so when we say commentary and criticism, you can use the others' work without permission, but in what? In commentary or criticism, meaning you will do a book review, for example, or you may summarize or quote of the parts of a copyrighted work. Okay? So, aside from that, after commentary and criticism is a parody. What do you mean by parody again? It is what? Aims to ridicule another, usually a well-known work. So, when we say parodies, this requires some taking from the original work which is being parodied. Again, when we say parody, it aims to ridicule another. Ibig sabihin, gagawa ka ng ng nakakatawang version. Okay? Usually a well-known work. Okay? So some examples of parody is when you write another lyrics using the same tune. Okay? Pero nakakatawa yung version, nakakatawa yung lyrics. Okay? That is a parody. Okay? Yes, change the lyrics into laugh trip version according to Brent. Okay, that's correct. Okay? So again, when we say commentary or and criticisms, meaning you can use the copyrighted work without a permission, but you have to what? In order to comment upon or critique it, meaning you will give your comments about the work or you will critique, okay? Or you will criticize the work, okay? So next is parody again, aims to ridicule another, meaning you will make a parody version or in Tagalog the nakakatawang version. Okay? Okay, so let's continue our discussion. So again, before we continue our discussion, let us discuss this again. Again, when we say plagiarism, it is passing off someone else's creative work as your own without permission. Okay? So when we say plagiarism, it is using or stealing others' work and presenting it as your own. Okay? So plagiarism can be the following: to steal and pass off the ideas or words of another as your own or one's own. Okay, so to use another production without crediting the source or the sources. Okay, to commit literary theft. When we say literary theft, copying literature like stories, um, short stories, novels, or even poem. Okay, and to present as new and original idea or product derived from an existing source. So when we say existing source or derived from existing source, it means that you are getting the idea from other people and presenting it as your own. Okay? So under plagiarism or under our copyright, we have also the fair use. Okay, fair use is a copying of copyrighted material done for a limited and transformative purpose. Okay, so when we say transformative purpose, it means that you will use a certain material or works in transformative purpose, meaning you will transform it. Okay, like will give comment, you will criticize, or do a parody of a copyrighted work. Okay, so this can be done without the copyright owner's permission. So even though you don't have the permission from the owner, you can still use the work. Hence, it is often used as a defense against a self-claim of copyright infringement. So when we say copyright infringement, it is the lawsuit. Okay, when we say lawsuit in Filipino, it is the kaso. Okay? So, some people are using fair use para hindi makasuhan ng copyright infringement. Again ha, so copyright infringement is the lawsuit when you um done copyright or when you done any ca- uh, copying of others' work. Okay? So, when we say fair use or under fair use, it can be classified into two categories. So the first is commentary and criticism. So when we say commentary and criticism, it allows you to reproduce some parts of the copyrighted work in order to comment upon or critique it. Meaning you can use the certain work without the owner's permission, but you will give comment or you will give criticism about it. Okay, so yes, for example, is writing a book review. Okay, so you may summarize, you may copy some parts of the story, but you will give a review or criticism about it. Okay, that is commentary and criticism. Now, another is a parody. So when we say parody, it is what? Generally defined as a work that aims to ridicule another, usually well-known work. Okay, so this means that parodies require some taking from the original work which is being parodied. So when we say parody, again, it aims to ridicule or in Tagalog or in Filipino, gawing nakakatawa. Okay? Yes, correct, April. Babaguhin siya or binago. Okay? So, syempre, kapag when you are making a parody, babaguhin mo yung lyrics, right? But the tune is the same. Pero dahil nakakatawa siya, okay, that is also a parody or that is parody. Okay? Correct, Paula, imitating it in a comic way or in a funny way. Okay? So that is fair use. So if you see these different logos, this means fair use, okay? So you can see this usually in books or in internet. So if you see these logos, it means fair use, meaning you can copy the work, but still, you can choose if you want to criticize it or if you want to give parody. Okay, so these are the logos of fair use. And this one meaning there is no copyright. So when you use a certain work with this logo, meaning you can use it freely without copyright. Okay? So when you are getting works from the internet, you may look for the different logos. So to check if you can use it with even without the permission of the real author. Okay? So any questions about fair use before we proceed to our next topic? None? Okay. So if none, let's continue. Okay, so next is netiquette. Okay, so what do we mean by netiquette? So netiquette is a short term for internet etiquette and network etiquette. So combined together, internet and etiquette, it's that's why it is called netiquette. So It refers to the use of good manners in online communication. This is applicable regardless of the online communication media used. So whether it is through email, forums, blogs, and social networking sites, so it applies the same rules, or it applies the same rules of netiquette. Okay? So what are the different rules of netiquette? Okay, so first is remember the human. What do we mean by remember the human? Okay? So when we say remember the human, it means that you have to remember that the person you are talking to, even though it is virtually or even though it is through social networking sites, remember that the person you are talking to is also a human. Okay? So what you may feel, may others feel too. Okay? So remember again, when we say remember the human, always think that the person you are talking to is a person or a human. Okay? Next is adhere to the same standards of behavior online that you follow in real life. What do you mean by that? Okay, so adhere to the same standards of behavior online that you follow in real life. Okay, so meaning when we say adhere to the same standards, so what behavior you are following, that you follow in real life can be applicable also to the people online, or the way you talk to the people online. Okay, so for example, how do you talk to, or speak to your siblings in your house, or how do you speak to your parents? So that is also the way you should talk to the people online. Okay, next, know where you are in cyberspace. What do you mean by this? Okay, again, know where you are in cyberspace. Okay, global from Christine. Okay, so when we say know where you are in cyberspace, so you have to um, think what site are you in. Okay, so from Ronald, know your limitations. Okay, so there are some websites that have a set of rules. Okay, so before joining some websites, you must know their rules, okay? So, for example, when you are playing ML or Mobile Legends, okay, what are the etiquettes, or what are the etiquettes to be followed? Okay? Yes, Aljain, use appropriate communication, yes, 'di ba? So in ML, trash talking is not allowed, for example. Okay, so know where you are in cyberspace. Yes, from Marlo, avoid toxic behavior. Okay, from Brent, also there are some websites that don't allow screenshots or taking screenshots. Yes. Okay, from Brent again, use appropriate word when you are in cyberspace, or when you are in internet. Correct. Next is respect other people's time and bandwidth. What do you mean by this? When we say bandwidth, class, this is the data, or the capacity of data transfer. Okay? So an example of this is our virtual class. Okay? Respect others people's time and bandwidth. That's why I am asking you to turn off your camera, because some people or some of our classmates are using data connection. So they don't have enough data connection or data to consume. So that's why the less um, data that we use, the more data they can save. Okay, that's why we use um, that is sometimes we have to turn off our camera or mute our mic. Okay, so to save the data transfer or connection of other people. Okay. Next is make yourself good online. Okay, so what do you mean by this? Oh, Okay? So when we say make yourself good online, it is not just about the physical appearance, but also it can be uh okay. So aside from being presentable or physically presentable, it can also be what? Can also be your grammar, for example. Okay. So your spelling, your check your facts. When we say facts, the ideas or the informations that you are posting in the internet. Okay. So that is yes. From Paula, always check your spelling and grammar errors. Okay, correct. Okay, from Brilliant, the way you interact online. Okay, the way you speak also from Chloe. Okay, from Paula again, be pleasant and polite. Okay, that is through writing also. Okay, be professional. Okay, next is share the expert knowledge. What do you mean by share the expert knowledge? Okay, so when we say share the expert knowledge, information sharing, yes. Aside from information sharing, okay. So let's share the information that we know, okay. So share thoughts, okay. Exact information. That's why we have to share what real news, for example. Okay, so don't spread fake news. Hmm. Okay, so you can also share your expertise or what is something you are good. Okay, that is share your expert knowledge. Okay, next is help keep flame wars under control. What do you mean by this? Okay, when we say flame wars, especially in the social media, most of the times, di ba, anong ginagawa natin, lalo na sa Facebook, pag nakikipag-away tayo, okay, ayun yung tinatawag nating trash talking, di ba? Oh, ang lakas mang inis sa Facebook. Oh, arguing through chat. Oh, o pag hindi ka nag-sorry, post ko 'to, i-screenshot ko yung message natin. Usong-uso 'yan ngayon, yung mga screenshot. The online rambulan. Oh, okay, that's correct. So when we say help keep climb under wars under control, so of course we have to and we have to what? We have to control our emotion. Okay? So even though it is through chats only, even though it is typewritten only, still it can affect the emotions or feelings of others. Okay? Yes, Chloe, be humble always. Correct. Okay, next is respect others people's privacy. What do we mean by respect other people's privacy? Hmm. What do you mean by this? Anybody? Know your limitation. Yes, from Ashley. Do not share your personal information. Correct. Yes, that's correct. Do not share your personal information. At the same time, do not share others' personal information. Okay? And do not abuse your power. What do you mean by do not abuse your power? Power of what? Anybody? What do you mean by do not abuse your power? Okay? So be aware of what you say to other people. Yes, correct. From Jemar. Always be cool from Gio. Be mindful of others from Eliza. Okay? Know your limits from Muhammad. Min. Okay? Wow, from Paula. Think rule number one, remember the human. Okay? So from RG, yes, keep calm and don't take advantage from Al Jane. Meaning, do not abuse your power or do not abuse other people by what? Uh, through vulgar words or through bad words. Okay, so aside from that, um wow, RG, bawal ang judgmental. Okay, And aside from that, when we are playing online games, an example of online games, for example, in ML, in uh, code, or in Call of Duty, o 'di ba anong sasabihin natin? Ay, cancer naman 'yan kalaro. Okay, o 'di ba? So we use what? We are abusing our power. Meaning, oh yun, ay naku pabuhat naman yang si ano. Oh, ayoko makapaglaro diyan. So that is what? That is too abusive. Meaning we can hurt others, people's feelings. Okay. Okay. So, and the last one is be forgiving of others people's mistake. Okay, what do you mean by that? So we have to remember again uh, the human that we are talking to. So remember that nobody is perfect. Okay, so ay mali yung spelling niya, ba naman yan? Ay mali yung grammar niya, ba naman yan? O, 'di ba? Ay mali yung English niya. Oh, okay. So, be forgiving of others' mistakes. So, if it is in spelling, grammar, or anything that we find humiliating, so still we practice kindness. We have to practice kindness and forgiveness. Yes, correct. Yes, from April, wag maging perfectionist. Okay. Yes, from Ashley, turuan kaysa mapagalitan. Wow. Okay. Okay. So those are the core rules of netiquette, or when we are um, in the internet or cyberspace. Again, always think number one, rule number one, remember the human. Okay? Remember that the other end in cyberspace or in internet is also a human. Okay? Kahit mukhang robot yung classmate natin, human pa rin siya. Oh, so, we have to remember human. Okay? No, just kidding. Okay, joke lang. Okay? Okay, so that is for the core rules of netiquette. Okay, so next is digital divide. What do you mean by digital divide? So when you say digital divide, class, it is the economic, educational, and social inequalities between those who have computers and online access and those who do not. Okay? So when you say digital divide, so this term could also be used to describe the gap between those who have the skills and knowledge in using various technologies and those who do not. So what do we mean by digital divide? So when I say digital divide, class, this is the gap. Okay? The gap between people who have computer access or online access and the gap between those people who do not have internet or online access. Gets? That is what we call digital divide. Okay? Also, when we say digital divide, this can also be used to describe the skills that some people who have in internet or in technology and those who do not. Okay? So that is digital divide. And aside from that, we have cyberbullying. Okay, so cyberbullying, it is a bullying that takes place using electronic technology like cell phones, computers, and tablets, as well as communication tools like social media, text messages, chats, and websites. Okay, so cyberbullying, it is bullying using electronic technology. Okay, so it can also be in the form of um, written. It can also be in the form of text, chats. Okay, as long as it uses technology or electronic technology, it is cyberbullying. Okay, yes, correct from Paula and Agustin. Harassment using electronic means or cyber harassment from Brent. Okay, so to be all for our discussion for today. Do you have any questions? So I will turn on my camera now. So any questions about our discussions for today? Okay, so sure you don't have any questions about our discussion for today. So again, if you don't have any questions about our discussion for today, again, thank you, class, for attending our virtual class and stay safe. Okay?